Listeners, we have all held a deck of cards before. Maybe for a poker night, maybe to play solitaire, when life felt too quiet. But what if those same cards weren't just a game of chance, but it's a language of the universe? Sounds interesting, right, listeners? It can be like a mirror of the solar year, the rhythm of our days, and even the architecture of our souls. Listeners, today on this episode of the Cosmic Confluence Podcast, with your host Sana, we are peeling back the layers of what's been hiding in plain sight. My guests, Alexander Dunlop and Viki Scudiery, are here to help us decode the deeper story, one that connects the 52 cards we all know to the 52 weeks of the year, the four suits to the four seasons, and perhaps even the path to self realization. So let's shuffle through the mystery, listeners, and see what happens when we stop playing cards and start listening to them. So, Alexander and Vicky, welcome to Cosmic Confluence. I'm really excited for this conversation.
That was a fantastic introduction, Sana. Thank you so much. We're thrilled to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Alexander and Vicky, and thank you for your warm words. And let's begin because this is such an interesting, lens through which In fact, I also didn't actually realize, whenever I played cards or I actually looked at my friends playing cards. So, um, you describe the deck of 52 cards as a sacred technology, and it's a bold statement, to be honest. So if you both can walk us through, what that means and like how does something as ordinary as a deck of cards can hold ancient wisdom?
Well, the first thing to say, and that's a great question you're asking, is that it's only ordinary in our mindset right now. It only
Okay.
appears ordinary. And in all the great spiritual traditions, there's this idea that there's a deeper reality behind the ordinary perception, that there's something hidden behind the veil. And
Mm,
the deck of cards is the way that we've all thought of this language of life. That was the level of our consciousness. That's all we could perceive. That was the limit of our imagination and our vision and our consciousness. But
mhm.
actually, it's an ancient book that was hidden in plain sight. It's an unbound book that reveals the seasons and cycles of life on Earth. It reveals the living matrix inside of which we have our very existence on this planet. In
Mhm.
order to behold that, in order to be able to see that that is the truth, we first need to let go of our preconception, our mental attachments, which is something Buddha taught, that in order to find liberation, in order to release ourselves from suffering, we have to transcend our mental attachments. So in this case, the mental attachment is to the idea that it's simply a deck of playing cards. In order to see the truth, we need to first let go of that mental preconception.
Hmm. That makes sense, Alexander. That makes sense. And it's fascinating as well. Vicky, we would love to know from you as well.
I'm just I'm so in awe of the system itself. It has so much wisdom in these 52 archetype, these symbols. They have energy to them. They exude energy. If you look at the patterns on the cards, you can receive healing from just meditating on them because they have structure and they have a patterning that is healing. The patterns themselves, the pit patterns, that's what you call, like, for example, if it's like a two of hearts, the two hearts on the card is called a pit pattern. That patterning shows you how to play it well. So there's so much information in these cards, and we all have cards to play based on our date of birth. We have a life path of 13 plus cards. Each of
Mhm.
these cards shows a different aspect of our human being. It's all based on math. And, it's just, I, it's just mind blowing to me, that
Yeah.
just so much information in this template. And that I believe that we choose our cards because I believe I'm a soul and I chose the day to come into this body. And
Mhm.
so I'm choosing these cards to play for my whole life.
Mhm. Yeah. I can sense that. And it's really, really like it makes me wonder like how many things that, we label as ordinary, they're actually encoded with something sacred. Um and Alexander, it's this question is for you. Like if this knowledge has been hiding in plain sight for centuries, what do you think caused it to like be forgotten or dismissed, just as a game for leisure or, time pass?
That's a very big question. What caused it to be forgotten or dismissed? We could point to the idea that has been held again in various spiritual traditions that
Mhm.
humanity goes through cycles of awakening and also falling asleep, as the idea of the yugas in Indian philosophy. In
Yeah.
Mayan philosophy in the Mayan tradition, there is the same idea of cycles, that we move
Mhm.
through larger cycles. And it's possible simply that we had been in a cycle of darkness, and that's why this wisdom was hidden. So that's one possibility. Another
Uh-huh.
possibility is that we weren't ready for it. This information is so powerful. Once you know it, you know other people's weaknesses. You know exactly how to hurt them if you really wanted to. So we needed to be ready as a species to be able to hold this information, which is why I believe it's only just now coming back to us. But as to why it was lost or dismissed, another reason why it was because it was seen as a threat to the existing power structures,
Yeah.
seen as a threat to the biblical monotheistic tradition in particular. And in the Middle Ages, the Roman Catholic Church called these cards the Devil's Picture Book or the Devil's Bible. And
Okay.
propaganda was all too successful. So there are several answers, several ways that we can look at why and how this information was lost or dismissed.
Hmm. Yeah. I also think, Alexander, that um you know, as we advance, and let's look at the positive side. We are in the modern age, we are in the information age, and as we keep on, discovering, we keep on, observing things. There's also like this beautiful bond created between science and spirituality. Maybe few things which cannot be explained scientifically, or maybe few things which do not have any, relevance in there. I think now the good part is that, gradually, slowly, gradually, individuals are actually gaining that access to understand, to at least acknowledge that, there is definitely an explanation out there through history, of course.
Yes,
Um,
beautifully said.
mhm. Okay, and also, and this is actually both of you. Like you both connect the cards to the solar calendar, 52 cards, 4 suits, 13 cards per suit, as a mirror of Earth's cycles. Um, if I can play a devil's advocate here, couldn't that just be like a coincidence? Like, I love identifying patterns. I love observing patterns. Like humans are pattern seeking creatures. So we love finding meaning where they may not be any. So what are your thoughts?
This feels so magical to me, and I don't really believe in coincidences. So I would say that there is no such thing as a coincidence. It's
Okay.
just magical that it's perfect alignment. It's an exact perfect alignment. Like you say, 13 weeks in a season, 13 cards in a suit. If you add up all the solar values of every single card of all 52, ace equals 1, 2 equals 2, 3 equals 3, jack equals 11, queen equals 12, king equals 13. If you do that for all 52, you get 364. And
Mhm.
Joker is the fifth element. He's outside the matrix. He's the fifth element in a four-part system. So he's represented by the solar value of 5/4, which is 1 1/4. So if you put him in the deck, it becomes 365 1/4. And to me, that's just absolute perfection. So
Mm.
We are, as human beings, meaning-making machines. That is true. It's up to us to make the meaning out of it that we want to make out of it. And that's also why somebody could look at these cards, and if they want to, they could say, it's just a deck of cards. The only meaning it has is to play poker. It's up to us, through the level of our consciousness, the level of our own awareness, to discern and decide for ourselves what meaning we want to ascribe to something. Now, it is possible, which I think is behind your question, it is possible for people to give meaning to something that doesn't actually provide the meaning that they think it gives. They rub their lucky rabbit's foot and be superstitious and give that meaning when really it's just a superstition. The way that we know that these cards are not merely superstitious is that you can test it out for yourself. You can learn your cards to play for free on the homepage of our website, or read my book, which is to discover the whole life path of cards. And then you can look up your friends and family and see if it's accurate for them as well, and start to really know for yourself that it's accurate or not, that it's not merely wishful thinking, hoping that it might mean something. By looking at the people in your life and seeing how it does or doesn't resonate for them, you'll start to know for yourself that it really is grounded in some accurate, meaningful truth.
that's the part that really got me. It was like, it's one thing to know about myself, but to look up everybody's cards to play that are in my life, friends and family throughout my whole life, looking them all up, it was like mind-blowing to me because it just brought so much clarity to past situations, dynamics of relationships, how people are, how people show up in life. It's just so accurate. So it
Mhm.
really, yeah, it really can show you how accurate the system is by looking up other people's cards to play.
It does. It does. And Alexander, as you mentioned about your book, Play Your Cards Right, it also suggests that every person's birth date aligns with a specific card, essentially like, a soul blueprint. Um, how do you see this intersecting with astrology or other, self-mapping systems or tarot cards or anything?
Well, it's an interesting question you asked. There's a big answer, a longer answer to your question.
Okay.
Short answer is that it intersects perfectly with astrology. In fact, it leverages the system. It leverages astrology for some of its meaning. For example, in your life path, you have planetary cards, like you have a Mercury card, a Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, etc. So you have astrological influences in your life path. And if you know astrology, then it will help you to understand the meaning of those cards. You do not need astrology to know this system, to be able to utilize it in your life, but it does intersect perfectly with astrology. Tarot cards, on the other hand, are a completely different knowledge base. They're actually
Okay.
related. People think that they're related, but they're actually unrelated. And
Mm.
the tarot cards actually historically come after the quote unquote regular deck of cards.
Mm.
Many people think that these cards are a derivative of the minor arcana in tarot, but actually the tarot cards come later in history. And these cards, again, I'm calling them cards, but it's really the
Mm.
Book of Life hidden in plain sight. The Book of Life and the meaning of the pips on the faces of the cards all come out of the tree of life and the flower of life. That's where the energy and the meaning comes from. All the patterns on the faces of the cards come out of the patterning on the tree of life. And the tree of life and the flower of life are the oldest known symbols that we have cross-culturally
Mm.
around the world of spiritual symbolism. So given that we now know it's true that these cards, again, I'm calling them cards, emerge as patterns out of the tree of life and the flower of life, we know that it's the oldest system of knowledge that we have on this planet. And that means it must be older than the tarot as well. So there's an interesting relationship there. Many people don't see it that way, but that's how we see it, that this deck is actually older and deeper than the tarot cards.
Mm. I think that's well explained, Alexander. Keeping in mind that, it actually, I think it can be a separate discussion of its own.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And I've had very powerful tarot card readings in my life. Not to
Mhm.
discount the power of the tarot card, is simply which one is older and which one gives us the meaning of the reality itself that we're in. The
Mhm.
cards are more like an art form, and this is a science. This is the mathematical science of our space-time matrix.
Mm.
Also, there's the difference in that the tarot is a form of divination.
Yes.
You're pulling cards, and you can pull the regular deck of playing cards. You could pull them and do divination with them as well. But that is not the primary way we are, teaching people to empower themselves with it. They're the cards that you've actually been given for your whole life based on
Mm.
your birthday.
Hmm. Yeah. And before we wrap up, Vicky, this is for you. I mean, you come from a deep background in intuitive healing and energy work. I mean, before that, first of all, I really, really, I am actually loving here that, this, there's a blend of masculine and feminine wisdom here. So coming to the feminine here, I mean, when you look at the source cards, Vicky, I mean, what do you feel before you analyze them? Like, is there an energetic or intuitive layer that guides your interpretation, like beyond the structure of the card themselves?
I absolutely love that you've asked me this question. And yes,
True.
it's really a feeling for me that just in looking at the cards and we've taken the numbers off of the cards so you can just see the patterning of the cards of
Mm-hmm.
symbols. And I just really can, feel the energy. Like they just tell me so much when I'm with them, you know, uh, and then I can feel that same energy in a person, that's playing those
Mm-hmm.
cards, like, and it's just, in my healing practice, so I'm an energy healer and I work with people for years before I met Alexander, and Alexander was the one who, showed me about the cards. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember when, I went back to my clients' like intake forms and they had written their birthdays to see what cards they were playing, people I had worked with for years. And
Okay.
absolutely fascinating how, you know, everything that we had talked about for those years was all in their cards to play. It was like their challenges and shadowy energy that, like had come up in sessions was all in their cards to play, like based on their birthday. So it was like a good confirmation for me to see that. But yes, I feel the energy of the patterns. I feel like they're like friends, teachers, like there's these symbols that are my friends. There are cards that are in play every single day. So, we have our cards that are on our birthday, but every day is somebody's birthday. So there's cards in play every
Yeah.
single day. And, it's like really learning to utilize the energy that is in play, like feel that energy, tune into that energy, and use it in the way to have the best day you possibly can. So, like, for me, it's like, yes, it's feeling into that energy, looking at the pit pattern and seeing, oh, what is that telling me? What can I receive from that? And yeah, receiving the feminine energy, right? The receptive energy of receiving an energy pattern and then using it. How can I use this energy? Perfect example I'll give you is that, let's say it's a four of diamonds day.
Okay.
Four is about structure and organization, and diamonds are about what I value most in my life.
Yeah.
So on a 4 day, oh, it's a great day, like, to clean out the closet and organize, or organize
Okay.
work,
Uh-huh.
things
Uh-huh.
like that. Um, Maybe I would, not do something out of the box and different that day. I would do something that's, related to organizing things, right? But if it's a 5 day, five of diamonds, I might be like, I'm going to do something different today, out of the box, change. It means change. So I'm going to use that energy, to have more synchronicity and serendipity in my life because I'm utilizing the energy.
Understood. Yeah, actually, that is actually meaningful. I think, you know, the cards, they become a mirror, um, not just for the person in front of us, but for our own energy as a reader too. Like, this specifically for you, Vicky. So, before we wrap up, if I think our listeners will be so much interested to explore, and I think there is no harm to actually explore, before there's any skepticism or any kind of, all this woo woo and stuff. But if our listeners, they would like to explore further into the resources that you're providing and your book as well, Alexander, what would be the best medium to do that and to connect with you guys?
Well, the best way to connect with us is to go to our website, thesourcecards.com. And right on the homepage, you can enter your birthday and start with your free lookup of the first two cards in your life path of 13 cards. If that intrigues you, if that interests you further, you can read my book, which is also available on the website. And in my book, you can read about the meaning of all 13 cards in your life path. And then from there, there's other classes you can take. You can do a life audit with us if you have questions for us. We also have certification training, and for executives and CEOs, we have a high-ticket coaching program.
Brilliant, brilliant. Listeners, what I'm going to do for all of you is have all these details in the show notes. So just go and check out thesourcecards.com and check out all the resources from there. And you can also reach out to Alexander and Vicky. And I think for us, it is wild to think that, something sitting in our junk drawer or maybe backpack, it might be whispering cosmic truths to us. The 52 cards, not as a distraction, but as a reminder, make us realize that we are a part of a grand design, one that mirrors the sun, the seasons, and the soul itself. So, Alexander and Vicky, thank you so much for showing us. I mean, this is absolutely fascinating. And I mean, this is really, really, I think it's very much needed. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And to all the listeners out there, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Cosmic Confluence. And maybe the next time you pick up a deck of cards, you'll ask not what game you are playing, but what game life is playing through you. So stay curious, stay open, and keep playing your cards right. This is your host, Sana, signing off. Thank you.